My name is Kyle Sommerfeld, and I am on the leadership team here at City North Church, and I am just honored to be your speaker today. I'm also honored because we are starting a brand new series, and that series is called Financial Peace on Earth. And it's our series leading into the holidays for a reason, because we tend to notice something. We notice that whatever stresses you out 11 months of the year probably stresses you out double in the month of December, doesn't it? If work stresses you out, if your family stresses you out, it's probably double during the holidays. And finances are just one of those things that just cause so much stress on our relationships and our plans and our goals. And if it stresses you out during the rest of the year, chances are it stresses you out right now too. So in the month of December, we want to talk to you all about finances. The Bible has an immense amount to say on finances and a lot of advice that we can learn from. I want to start today by asking you guys a question, though. By show of hands, how many of you guys would say that when you were younger, you had someone who was basically a mentor to you? Who would you, if you had someone that was older than you, that was just ahead of you in life and giving you advice? Raise your hand real quick. Okay, so that's a lot of us. I hope you know how blessed you are for that. I remember when I was in college, I had one professor in particular who not only taught me a bunch in the classroom, he would come into the dorms and play video games with us, and he would usually win. He would give really, really good advice. He would tell me what it was like as I became an adult. He described to me all the things that I was going to need to know. And he gave me advice on my relationships. He gave me advice on my finances. He gave me advice on what it might be like to get out in the real world. And I was so blessed for that. So whenever I read stories about mentors, that is a firsthand thing for me. That's something I remember directly. One of the reasons I love the verse we're studying today is it's all about a mentor and a student. The mentor's name was Paul, and his student's name was Timothy. And Paul, in the book of 1 Timothy, is writing his student a letter. And that letter is all filled with advice. And sure enough, he does talk about finances in that letter. So our verse today is 1 Timothy chapter 6, starting in verse 6. And I want you guys to listen, and I would love for you guys to picture your mentor giving you the kind of advice that Paul gives in this passage. So 1 Timothy 6 through 8. Yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into the world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content. And the key word there in the first verse and in the second verse is that word content. In the first verse, it's contentment. And content is a hard thing to put your finger on sometimes. So this is the official Kyle definition of contentment. Contentment is the ability to be satisfied regardless of your circumstances. Because we all know it's easy to be content when everything's going well, when your bank account is nice and fat, when your family is happy, when you got plenty of food. It's easy to be content at that point. But it's hard to be content when things aren't going well. So I define contentment as your ability to be satisfied regardless of your circumstances. And contentment is harder now than maybe it ever has been because we live in an age of commercials and advertising. And an advertiser's job, first and foremost, is to utterly annihilate your contentment, to steamroll it into nothing if they can. Every commercial you see is people smiling and laughing as they enjoy this new product or restaurant or whatever they're trying for you to buy. And that advertisement doesn't work if you're content. If you're content with what you have, you'll never spend a dime, will you? Every advertiser's job is to make you feel like your life is missing something. So when you see those smiling people on TV and you look at your life and you don't feel like smiling, you think, maybe that will make me happy. If I spend money there, maybe that'll turn my life around. And that makes contentment incredibly difficult today. Because our status is based on our stuff, isn't it? Like when I was in high school, the kid with the best car was the coolest kid, hands down. Even today, if you have a nice car, there's a status that comes along with it. But I worked with teenagers for about 5 years, and I found that while cars are important, there's something else that is really your big status symbol when it comes to possessions. And that's your phone, which I thought was insane. But these teenagers truly put themselves in classes based on the kind of phone you had. When I pulled my phone out, they were able to identify what it was within 5 seconds of looking at it. They could identify it just like that. I am a user of the, I guess it's the antique, iPhone 4. The iPhone, ooh, someone said ooh, yeah, that's about right. The iPhone 4 came out in 2010, okay? Last September, they came out with the iPhone 7. So this is literally a third-rate phone. It's literally 3 generations behind. And I used to be like really proud of that. I kind of felt like I was roughing it, like I'm a pioneer, kind of. You know how when you go camping, you're like really proud of what you don't use? I always felt like, man, I'm really roughing it with this old iPhone 4, Like I really know what it's like to do without the nice things. And it never really bothered me that I was kind of behind. But then I heard 2 teenagers talk about one of their friends. And he had an older phone. And they were saying things about him that weren't real nice because of the phone he had. And I don't really consider myself that vain of a person, but if I'm honest with you, I didn't really pull out my phone in front of people for a while after that. If I had a text, I'd answer it in the bathroom, or I'd wait till I got to my car, because I was actually a little bit ashamed of it. Because I didn't want people to see my third-rate phone and think that I was a third-rate person. And it got even worse when I thought about my wife. My wife at the time had a phone that was worse than mine. And I thought about people who saw her phone, and I just got sad because I didn't want them to think she was a third-rate person. Because I love my wife, and she's not a third-rate person. And I was nervous that when people saw her third-rate phone, they'd think that's a woman with a third-rate husband. Because I couldn't provide for her to have anything better than that. And I'm not a parent, but it started to help me understand parents who always overspend on their kids and buy them the nicest clothes and the nicest things. And I used to always think it was because it was nepotism. It was them wanting their kids to look better than everybody else. But I started to realize that may not be it at all. They might just be worried that if other parents see their kids in third-rate things, that they'll think they're third-rate parents. And that hit me really close to home. Because I want to tell you something today before I get to anything else. I have a lot of important stuff that I really want you guys to learn. But if you only remember one thing, let me tell you, you are more than your phone. You are so much more than your car or your house or your clothes. And if you've ever had a time in your life where you looked down on yourself or you felt down because you didn't have the nicest things, that's a trap, guys. And you'll never find contentment as long as your self-worth is based on a thing. I want you to know that God sees your self-worth purely through the kind of person you are and the kind of character you have and how you treat other people. And that the way you treat other people is infinitely more important than the things you own. And that's the kind of thing Paul's talking about here. Paul's talking about contentment. And as long as we obsess with things, contentment is something that's just going to always be out of reach for us. And he doesn't stop there. He actually continues in verses 9 and 10. He says this, as Paul the mentor is writing to Timothy, his student. But people who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people, craving money, have wandered from true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. We've heard the first part of that verse a lot, haven't we? That the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Money itself isn't wrong. Money regulates trade. Money helps us know what is valuable to us. Money keeps our financial systems from devolving into complete chaos. But when you love money, that's when you get in trouble. When money becomes the most important thing, that's when you get into many kinds of danger. And don't just believe Paul about it. We have another expert on this that you can ask about money. And that is the richest person in the entire Bible. In the entire Bible that we have, there's this one king named Solomon, and Solomon had more money than you could possibly imagine. Solomon never saw something he couldn't buy. Solomon had more money than he had time to count it. Solomon had more wives than he had time to learn their names. Solomon never saw something he couldn't purchase himself. He never saw a person that he couldn't have. A lot of people, even studying from this current day, think that Solomon, all things equal, may have been the richest person to ever live. He was king of Israel during their most prosperous time, and he benefited from that. And at the end of Solomon's life, he wrote a letter. He wrote a big poem, basically, about everything he learned about his life. And you wouldn't be surprised to find that he writes a great deal about money. He doesn't say very nice things. So take it from the richest guy who ever lived. Look at how he writes about money here. Those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is wealth, except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? Perhaps people who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. Look at all the negative things that Solomon says about being rich, and this is the expert on riches. He says that they don't get sleep because they're worried so much about their money. He says money's only good for watching it slip away. Phil, go back one slide. This is my favorite part in this whole verse, okay? The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. I love the word help in there. Like some rich guy is going to call 911 and say, officer, please, I have so much money and I don't know what to spend it on. But as silly as that sounds, I can tell you from firsthand experience, this is totally true. I have a buddy at work who accomplished a work goal, and he won $100. He won as much money as you can win on a work goal, okay? And the first thing I said to him was not good job or congratulations. The first thing I said to him was, donuts tomorrow? Like the guy didn't have the money in his hands, and I had an idea on how to spend it. And I was all too eager to share it with him. That's how money works. As soon as people smell money on you, they have all kinds of ideas and investments and ways that you can spend your money that usually benefit them. And this is what Solomon's saying. You don't have to believe me. I don't have enough money for you guys to believe me when I talk about money, okay? But listen to Solomon, because there ain't nobody who lived who had more. And at the end of his life, his conclusion on finances is that they just might be more trouble than they're worth. Solomon knew that the more money you have, the harder it is to be content. And that's the thing about contentment, guys. A lot of us just look at contentment as something we can have when we have enough money to afford it. Isn't that silly? Like, I'll pay off this loan and then I'll be content. I'll get the kids through college and then I'll be content. I'll become a homeowner and then I'll be content. I'll get that car, that raise, that promotion, and then I'll be content. But it doesn't work that way. You see, when you do that, when you put it off like that, you give contentment a price tag. And contentment doesn't have a price tag. Contentment is a choice. And as soon as you put a price tag on it, all you do is delay it. All you do is put it on the back burner. And the more you put contentment on the back burner, the more you wait for your savings account to cross that little line, the more you wait for it, the more you put off ever getting it. Contentment is a choice. And if contentment is a choice, that means it's something you can choose today. It's funny how we look at things that are free, isn't it? Like, when something's free, you're always looking for, okay, but what does this really cost? It might be free now, but what does it cost down the road? So whenever you see something like contentment that really is a free choice, we don't trust it, do we? But here's the truth of the matter. Most of the most valuable things in your life right now are free. The love of people, the relationships that you have, if they're real, they don't cost anything. And you know what? The most valuable thing I can possibly offer anybody in this room is another thing that's free, and that's a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I'm telling you right now, it is the most important thing for you. It is the thing you need in life most. And it's another thing that's absolutely free. You see, at one point, every single one of us, we broke our relationship with God. We chose to do things our way instead of his way, and all that does is push him away. But God loved you so much that he said, I'm not letting that relationship stay that way. So he sent his son into this world, and his son died, paying the price for that mistake we made, for breaking that relationship. And then his son rose 3 days later. And when he rose from the dead, he sent a message to you and me. He said, you can rise from the dead too. If you confess with your mouth that I've done this for you, if you believe in your heart that I love you, you can embrace this and you can have this free gift. And more than anything else, guys, I want you guys to know how important that gift is, because it literally changes your life. It powers our church. It is the reason our church exists. It's the most important decision you can make. And it's absolutely free, just like contentment. Contentment is 100% free. But we struggle sometimes. We struggle to choose that, don't we? We struggle to make the choice to be content, not later, but now. It's a tough thing to choose right now. You ever make a commitment with your head and you say, okay, this is it. This is when things change. This is when I'm going to do things differently. And within a week, you backslide right off that commitment. That's because you set your mind on it without setting your heart on it. And the key to contentment is that you have to set your heart on contentment. It's not enough to put your mind on it. It's not enough to just say that you're going to do it. Contentment is something you have to set your heart on. You have to commit to it fully, or it's not going to take hold. And I already know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, Kyle, you're talking all about money and you're talking all about being content with what you have, but you don't know how much debt I'm in. You don't know how much money I owe. You don't know how high my bills are. And the truth is, I don't know any of that. I can't speak for any of you. I don't see your finances. It's really none of my business. But I can tell you this. If my sermon today was just 100 ways to save money, that would help you guys a little bit. But none of that will even work if you don't set your heart on being content with what you have. All the financial tips in the world aren't going to change your financial situation around if it doesn't start with step one. And step one is setting your heart on being a content person. No amount of financial advice will ever take hold if you're not content first. And that means not putting off contentment till later. That means not waiting until you get that raise or pay off that loan. It means saying that no matter what I have, I'm content. And guys, I don't want to be like anti-ambition here. I'm not saying don't go out and get your raise. I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying don't save money. I'm not saying don't do any of the things that make us better as human beings. But what I'm telling you is that all the financial reasoning in the world doesn't mean anything if it doesn't start with being content. And there's one surefire way to be able to tell if you're content. And that's not just setting your heart on contentment. It's setting your heart on generosity. It's setting your heart on being able to give. You know the surefire way you know if you have? If you're willing to give some of it away. That's the easiest way to know if you're okay with it. That's the easiest way to know if your contentment truly doesn't rely on your circumstances. How willing you are to give things away. Now, I want to be really careful to qualify this, because as soon as you hear someone up front in a church talk about generosity, the first thing that comes to your mind is, he wants my money. He's talking about generosity. I'm hearing about generosity in a church. It's because he wants my money. He's going to take the money I put in the offering plate, and he's going to buy a Cadillac with it, and that's what's going to happen. I can't drive sticks, so you guys don't have to worry about that. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to act like pastors haven't done that before. The most successful pastors, ones that get all the TV shows, mostly survive on telling their people to give so that they can buy themselves something. And millions of people in our country have been ripped off by that, and I'm truly ashamed of that. So I want to go above and beyond to let you know that I'm not telling you to be generous just because I want your money. I'm telling you to be generous because I truly believe you need it. Truth be told, you are going to see offering plates today. And truth be told, our church survives on the generosity of the people who call this place home. And even more truthful, I will tell you guys that I believe with all of my heart that this church is worthy of your giving. Our church reaches people for Jesus who never would give him a chance. Our church has helped people get rid of their baggage that they've had and truly embrace a life of renewal. Our church gives people freedom. Our church helps people mobilize and be used by Jesus to do great things. I really, really believe our church is worthy of your giving. But if you're nervous about that, I want to give you two organizations right here in our community that I think are worthy of your giving as well, just to make you sure that it's not just me. The first one is Westerville Area Resource Ministry, AKA WARM. That is a food pantry, and it is the food pantry in Westerville. I have worked with them probably for about 5 years pretty consistently, and they do amazing things. Every dollar they are given does amazing, incredible things to feed the hungry right here. And if you were to use your generosity there, I think that is an awesome, awesome use of your money. The second one is a group called Out of Darkness Columbus. Out of Darkness is a group that completely focuses on liberating women who are being trafficked, women who have been captured or who are being controlled into prostitution. And they are currently in the process of building a safe house, something Columbus doesn't really have right now, a place for women to go to be liberated from human trafficking. And that is an organization that is absolutely worthy of your money. I want it to be really, really clear to you guys. I'm not telling you to be generous because we want your money. I'm telling you to be generous because I truly believe if you don't, that you're missing out. I truly believe there is something so important in our faith about being generous that if you don't have it, something's missing. Jesus said it himself. He said, wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And he was challenging people with that. He was challenging them to say, does your generosity extend to people in need? Does your heart belong to people in need? Because whatever we do for the least of the people that we come into contact with, we do for Jesus. My encouragement for each and every one of you is to set your heart on contentment. Set your heart on not getting caught up on what it seems like these holidays are all about. Don't get caught up on having the best stuff. Don't get jealous when you see someone post about a vacation that you can't afford. Don't get caught up in the rat race of having the best stuff. Don't judge yourself on what you do and don't have. Learn to live a life that depends on being content. And all of that starts with being generous. All of that starts with being a giving person who cares about others, not just with their words, but with their wallet too. And I want that for every one of you because I truly believe that the kind of financial peace that we're talking about this month, financial peace on earth, that peace only is available to you if it starts with being content. We've got several more weeks of talking about this, guys, but everything else we talk about isn't going to work if you don't set your heart on being content. Let me pray with you guys real quick. I'd like everyone to just close their eyes and bow their heads real quick. Because a lot of what I've talked about today is that the gifts I'm talking about are 100% free. And I talked about contentment being a free gift, but I want to talk about that other free gift for a second. And that other free gift is a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ and you want one, I want you to know that relationship can start today. All it takes is you making a choice. All it takes is you saying, Jesus, I know things aren't right. I know I've made mistakes in the past. I know I thought a bad thought when that thing went off and it scared the crap out of me. I want you guys to know that no matter the state of your relationship, you can fix that today. And that decision, I'm not going to make you stand up. I'm not going to make you get up in front of everybody. I'm not going to make you say anything in the microphone. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ and you'd like to start one, will you just put your hand up? When you put your hand up, no one is seeing it but me and God. Thank you. If, with your head still down and with your eyes still closed, some of you raised your hand and some of you maybe thought about starting a relationship with Jesus, but you weren't quite there to raise your hand. And if you want to make that decision, I'd like you to repeat after me in your mind, all to yourself as you pray to God. And just pray the prayer that I'm about to pray. Dear God, thank you so much for loving me. Thank you so much for building me up and encouraging me. Thank you that when my relationship with you was broken, that you were there. I'm ashamed of some of the things I've done. I'm ashamed that we're not closer than we should be, but I want that to change this morning. I want to give myself another chance that I know you offer me. This morning, I want to confess with my heart that you're God. Confess with my mouth that you love me. And I want today to be the beginning of a brand new change. Today, I want to make a decision that my life will follow you. I want our relationship to be right again. I'm not satisfied with how it is. I accept that your son died on the cross for me to fix that relationship. And I accept that one day he'll rise again. That we'll rise again the way he did. That I'll be able to have that relationship with you for all of history and all of time. Lord, thank you for loving me. Thank you for pursuing me. Thank you for not giving up on me. And thank you that I have this opportunity for a new life with you. In your name, amen. We're going to sing one more song, and I encourage you guys to worship along with it. And before I go, I just want to remind you guys one more time that contentment is something that can start today if you want. If you've just been waiting to have a certain amount of money in your bank account to be content, I want you guys to know that contentment doesn't have to wait. That contentment can start today. If I could just urge you to do one thing this morning, is to embrace the free gift of being content so that we can be generous to other people.